ano ko daw. Wala si Joy. Sabi na lang kay Joy pa-join ulit. Yun na. Okay. So, once again, good morning. Today's lesson is logic. Hindi ko binuksan yung camera ko. Kung kailan magsisimula na ako tsaka mag-join. So most of the companies nowadays require their application to pass the abstract reasoning test before they will be hired in the position that they are applying for. Some schools, top universities and colleges here in the Philippines also include the use of abstract reasoning tests before in their entrance examination. So abstract reasoning test is actually a test where you are presented with a series of figures or shapes, and then you are going to identify the pattern by selecting from the given options to figure or to shape what will be the next pattern. So this test involves understanding ng relationship. It also involves making inferences and making conclusions. I just have to accept some of your classmates. Kailangan kong tumigil. So when you were given a statement or if you want to raise in your daily allowance based on the increase in the cost of transportation and based on the fare and the food. Dali lang klase. So your parent will tell you that if your grade will be better, then I will give you an increase of the allowance. Your parents did not give you your allowance increase, and then your grade is getting better. Can you conclude that your parents is lying to you? Or it's the same way as saying, if you clean your room, then your mother will give you your allowance. You cleaned your room, and yet your mother did not give you your allowance. Are we going to say that your mother is lying to you? Those are some things that we are going to study here in the logic. So we'll be limiting our topic to 5, what do we call this one? The logical connectors. So we'll be discussing here the first 3 logical connectors. But before that, we will be, all throughout the discussion of the logic, we'll be discussing about different ones. So logic is a combination of grammar and mathematics. So if you are good in grammar, then this topic will be a bit easy for you. So a proposition is a declarative sentence that is either true or false, but not both. So ibig sabihin, what is true to you will be also true to me. Hindi po pwede na yung understanding natin ng isang proposition is magkaiba. It's a true to you, it's false to me, then that is not a proposition. It should be true or false, but not both. Let us say, for example, I am eating a pasta and this is a delicious food. It might be true to me because that's one of my favorite food, pero hindi siya true sa'yo. Okay? So the truth value for this will be T or F that stands for true or false. So here is the example. Everyone should study general mathematics. Notice how we are going to write the proposition. It's P and then colon ba ang tawag niyan? So the proposition P, everyone should study general mathematics. That is being read as P is the proposition that everyone should study general mathematics. So there are many kinds of sentences. Meron tayong tinatawag na imperative sentence, meron tayong tinatawag na exclamatory sentence, meron tayong tinatawag na it's a false declarative, may mga ganun pa, may mga ambiguous cases pa, but we are going to restrict our discussion in logic to a declarative sentence that are unambiguous statements or propositions. Pasok pa. Okay, next. So let's determine whether the following is a proposition or not. If it's a proposition, we have to give its truth value, whether there is a true proposition or that is a false proposition. Remember na ang proposition is a declarative sentence. Alam ko expert kayo sa lesson na to kasi ang Humes ay expert pagdating sa grammar. Let's have the proposition P. Mindanao is an island in the Philippines. Is it a proposition or not? First, i-check mo muna kung declarative sentence siya. If that's a declarative sentence, then it might be. Because sinabi pag declarative yan, automatic proposition yan. Ang unang criteria para malaman natin if the given statement is a proposition is to check whether the statement is a declarative sentence. Kung hindi natin ma-meet yung first criteria that the proposition is, the statement is a declarative, then we can say that that is not a proposition. Number one, Mindanao is an island in the Philippines. Is it a declarative sentence or not? You can use the chat box if you don't want to unmute yourself. Yes, it is a proposition. That is correct. So the question is, yes, it is a declarative sentence. So is it a proposition? Proposition ba yan? Pag sinabing proposition, dapat true sa'yo, true sa akin. Hindi pwedeng true sa'yo, false sa akin. Okay, it's a proposition. So letter P, proposition P is a declarative sentence, hence P is a proposition. Let us have number 2. Find a number which divides your aids. Is it a declarative sentence? Proposition Q na tayo ha. Statement Q pala. Find a number which divides your aids. Not a declarative, very good. If it is not a declarative, what kind of sentence is statement Q? Medyo nawawala ako. Ayan, anong klaseng statement ang Q? Ano yan? Anong klaseng sentence yan? Ano, kalimutan na? It's an imperative sentence, so therefore, that is not a proposition. Okay, R. My seatmate will get a perfect score in the logic exam. Proposition or not proposition? Ay, baliktad. Declarative sentence or not? Very good. It's a declarative sentence. So proposition or not? Hindi lahat ng proposition, hindi lahat ng declarative sentence ay proposition. Pero lahat ng proposition ay declarative sentence. Oh, it's not a proposition. Why do you say it's not a proposition? My seatmate will get a perfect score in the logic exam. Bakit hindi siya proposition? Idea lang po. It's a proposition. Kasi the statement is a declarative sentence, check. But its truth value, whether it's true or false, my classmate will get a perfect score in the logic exam, will only be known after the logic exam. So nonetheless, it can be either true or false, pero hindi siya po pwede na magiging both true or both false. Kaya siya magiging proposition. Kahit na ang kanyang truth value ay ma-determine lamang natin right after the exam. Tandaan natin ang declarative sentence na answerable by yes, answerable by true or false, but not both true, the same time both false din siya. So, hindi siya pwedeng, mali ang pagkakaintindi ko, hindi siya pwedeng true at the same time false. Dapat true or false lang ang kanyang sagot. Let us have this statement as, welcome to the Philippines. Declarative sentence or what? Not a proposition according to Daniela. Kung hindi yan proposition, kung hindi yan declarative, dilito ako tuloy. Kung hindi yan declarative, anong klaseng sentence yan? Welcome to the Philippines. Ano yan? Basically, hindi ko naman masasagot ng true or false yan. Very good. It's an exclamatory sentence. Then that is not a proposition kasi hindi siya declarative. Now, statement C, when is our meeting? Declarative? Not a declarative statement. That's correct. Statement U, President Duterte is the 16th president of the Philippines. Declarative? Declarative ba yan? Yes. Yan ba ay proposition? President Duterte is the 16th president of the Philippines. Yes, that is a proposition. It's a true proposition. That President Duterte is a 16th president. So I hope it's clear to you the meaning of proposition. You have to check whether the statement is a declarative. And after checking, you have to identify whether it's true or false. If that is answerable by true or false, then that is a proposition. Otherwise, it's not a proposition. Okay? So there are two kinds of proposition. The first one is a simple proposition. It's a proposition that cannot be broken down any further into other components of proposition. The example to that is Eurotel is located in front of SM South Mall. Binibilisan ko kasi mahaba ang presentation ko. We have the compound proposition. It is a proposition formed from simpler proposition using logical connectors into other component propositions. So those logical connectors that we've studied in grade 7 to 10, those are logical connectors na and, but, yet, however, ano pa, yung mga common logical connectors na ginagamit natin. So example to that, ito na pala, P and Q, not Q. If Q, then P, P or Q. So yung lesson natin ngayon, itong P and Q, not P, P or Q. And ang P and Q, ang symbol nito ay P and Q. Not Q, that's the negation of Q. It's the opposite. And then P or Q, that is, ang symbol niyan, P or Q. Tingnan natin yung symbol ha, P and Q, at saka yung P or Q kasi marami ang nalilito niyan. Madaling tandaan ang not Q at saka FQ then P kasi yung FQ then P, inaaral natin yan sa geometry. Kung meron kayo niyan. Okay? So here are the logical connectors. Given a proposition, its truth table shown, all its possible truth value. When you have one proposition, that's proposition P, its truth value will be true, and then the second one is false. When you have two proposition P and proposition Q, here is the sequence of how you are going to put the true or false value. That's true, false, false. Tapos yung second niyan will be true, false, true, false. The rationale behind here is that when you have two propositions, P and Q, it could be the first statement, which is P, is true, and the second statement, which is Q, are both true. Pwede rin na ang first statement na P ay true, pero ang second statement na Q ay false. Pwede rin na ang first statement na proposition P ay false, pero ang second statement na proposition na Q ay true. Or pwede rin, parehas na false ang dalawang propositions. You cannot interchange yung position ng true, true, false, false, at saka yung true, false, true, false. Okay? Pag meron kang tatlong propositions, iba naman ang magiging pattern yan. Okay? So the truth table is useful because we can use it to display all the possible truth value combinations of two or more propositions. So kapag katatlo, ito yun. Apat na true, apat na false. Ito naman, dalawang magkasunod na true, dalawang magkasunod na false, true, false, tapos alternate, true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. So kung yan ay tatlong propositions, so that's 2 raised to the power of 3. So meron ka dapat dyan 8. Kasi di ba ang 2 cubed, that's 2 times 2 times 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Kaya meron tayo dyang 8 na row. Kanina, meron lamang tayong dalawang proposition which are propositions P and Q. So that's 2 to the 2 squared, that's 2 times 2. Kaya meron lamang akong 4 na row. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how you are going to determine the number of row. Depends upon the number of your propositions. Now let's have the negation. The simplest logical connectors. We have the negation. The negation of a proposition P denoted by. This is read as not P. Or some other books read as the negation of P. Usually nangyayari to sa isang kaso na yung suspect saka yung nagrereklamo, kailangan mapatunayan ngayon, ninigate ng suspect yung sinasabi noong nagsampa ng kaso. Negation. So that is defined through its truth table. When you have the proposition P, ang kanyang truth table ay true at saka false. So, ininegate ko ngayon si P. Paano ko siya ininegate? When that is true, basically gusto kong patunayan na yan ay false. Kung true yan, ang negation niya ay false. When that is false, the negation is true. Masyado ba ako mabilis? So the truth table tell us that when P is true, its negation, symbol as the negation of P, para siyang similar doon sa lesson ng geometry na symbol. Similar triangle na symbol. The negation of P is false. On the other hand, when P is false, ang kaniyang negation ay true. Hindi pwedeng ninegate mo yan, pareha sila ng truth table. Kung true yan, ang negation niyan ay false. So let's have the negation of the following. Who can give me the negation of the proposition N sub 1? P of x is equal to x minus 1 over x plus 2 is a polynomial function. How can we negate that statement? Anyone? Paano i-negate yan? Hoy, paano ko gagawing opposite statement na lang? Sige, let's make it simple. What's the opposite statement of P of x is equal to x minus 1 over x plus 2 is a polynomial function? The use of not will be a big help for you in negating a statement. So you can negate that as P of x is equal to x minus 1 over x plus 2 is not a polynomial function. But not all the time gagamitin mo yung salitang not. Kasi meron tayong mahahanap na opposite na word na ginamit doon sa isang proposition. Example niyan yung proposition N of 2. 2 is an odd number. How can I negate the statement 2 is an odd number? Very good, Joy. 2 is an even number. So you're not going to say 2 is not an odd number because there is a word pertaining to the opposite of odd. That's even. So although it's grammatically correct, nasasabihin natin na 2 is not an odd number, but it's more appropriate if you are going to use 2 is an even number. Very good. And of 3, the tinikling is the most difficult dance. How can we negate that statement? It's parang the most easiest. Tagay mo na yung most. Okay, tinikling is the easiest dance. It's grammatically correct when you are going to say that tinikling is not the most difficult dance, but it is more appropriate when you say that tinikling is the easiest dance. Tinatanggap naman yung the tinikling is not the most difficult dance, pero mas may-improve pa kasi natin kung sasabihin natin yung tinikling is the easiest dance. Okay? And of 4, everyone in Visayas speaks Cebuano. How can we negate that? Speaks Waray. Okay, that's correct. Not everyone. That's the, I think, Miguel got it correctly na yun yung pinaka most appropriate talaga na pag-negate niyan. Not everyone, that's correct, Chini, in Visayas speaks Cebuano. You know the concept of negation, huh? Okay, let's have now the conjunction. So the conjunction of propositions P and Q is denoted by, you look at the symbol, P and Q. That is defined by the truth table. So we have two propositions there, propositions P and propositions Q. Dahil dalawa lang yan, kailangan ko ng apat ngayon na row. So true, true, false, false, and then alternate, true, false, true, false. Lagi naman ganyan yan eh, kapag dalawa. Now, the conjunction proposition is true when, listen to this, when both the statement P and Q are true. Otherwise, false yan. Ulitin natin. Ang conjunction proposition, nagiging true siya kapag ang P ay true, ang Q ay true. Isa lang dyan ang false, false yung buong statement na yan. Okay? Kailangan maging true ang P at saka Q para maging true yung isang compound proposition. So we have the following sentences. Carlo is competitive and hardworking. Carlo is competitive but hardworking. Carlo is competitive yet hardworking. Although Carlo is competitive, he is hardworking. While Carlo is competitive, he is hardworking. In logic, those 5 compound statements implies the same meaning. In English grammar, iba-iba ang ibig sabihin niyan. Pero sa logical lesson, pare-parehas ang ibig sabihin niyan. Okay? So, tandaan natin yung ginamit ng logical connectors and, but, yet, although, at saka yung while. That pertains to conjunction proposition. So you can use those logical connectors na and, but, yet, although, at saka while. Isa lang ang meaning niyan sa lesson ng logic. Although sa lesson ng English, iba-iba ang ibig sabihin niya. Okay? So let's have this one. We have the proposition P, angels exist, and the proposition Q, pi is greater than 6. How can we express in English sentences for letter A? P and Q. You can use those logical connectors I've mentioned earlier, such as and, but, yet, while. Paano ko siya pagsasamahin? Gagawin ko siyang compound proposition pero conjunction. You can type if you don't want to unmute yourself. Paano ko siya gagawing sentence? Ito. P and Q. Meron akong P, tapos meron akong Q. P is that angels exist. Though wala siyang comma. Wala siyang period. And then pi is greater than 6. Paano? Sige, subukan ko isa, mukhang nalito pa eh. So, ang magiging compound proposition dyan is that angels exist, that's P, and pi is greater than 6. Did you get it? Naintindihan ba kung anong gusto kong palabasin doon sa tanong ko? Paano ko siya gagawing English sentence from logical symbol? Okay, let's try another one. How can you make this one into English sentence? Let's read as P and the negation of Q. Tama din yung although angels exist, comma, pi is greater than 6. So, ang proposition na angels exist, the same lang siya, but we have to negate pi is greater than 6. So, what's the negation of pi is greater than 6? Baka naman sabihin nyo, pi is not greater than 6, ha? There is a mathematical term equivalent to the negation of that greater than. Ano ba yung opposite? Less than. Pwedeng less than or equal. Kasi pag less than lang, paano kapag 6 ang lumabas? Okay? So we can express that as angels exist and pi is less than or equal to 6. You could also say that angels exist, yet pi is less than or equal to 6. There's no such template in translating from logical symbol to English sentences. You have to be very careful lang with your logical connectors. Kasi changing the logical connector will change the truth table. Okay? Nasusundan pa ba ako? Wala pati sa truth table, nasa dulo pa siya. Pag masyadong mabilis, sabihin nyo sa akin. So we have now, baliktarin natin. Let's do it into from English sentence going to logical symbol. Angels do not exist and pi is less than or equal to 6. Remember, our starting point is that the proposition P is angels exist and the proposition Q is pi is greater than 6. Tingnan nyo to kung ano ibig sabihin nito. May clue dyan na do not. Paano ko gagawing symbol yan? The negation of P, tama yung first mo, negation of P, Christina. Kaya lang kasi, tingnan mo to, tapos relate mo dyan. Magkaiba siya eh. So dapat mabago din si Q. Tama yung negation of P because angels do not exist is the negation of angels exist. But what about pi is less than or equal to 6? Yun ba yung Q din? Christina?
Pag inenegate po parehas, naka-parenthesis po sila yung isa or both o hindi na po?
Isa-isa. Kasi not all the time distributive property working with logic. That's correct. So pwede natin sabihin na the negation of P and the negation of Q. Later on, malalaman natin if that is equivalent to the negation of P or N pala Q. Okay? Kailangan mo lang lagyan ng Christina ng symbol na N. So ipapakita natin mamaya kung ito bang dalawa parehas. Ang distributive property ba lagi-laging gumagana pagdating sa logic? Okay? Next. While angels do not exist, pi is greater than 6. How can we translate that into symbol para symbol? Negation of P, wala bang or na symbol sa ano? Ay, kasi cellphone ang gamit, ano? The negation of P, and i-assure ko na end to ha kasi nasa conjunction tayo. Okay, that's correct. The negation of P and Q. Okay? Now, let's have the second logical operator, which is the disjunction. Okay. Kanina, kung ang conjunction ay either, I mean, the two statement must be true para yung disjunction proposition ay magiging true. Dito, ang disjunction proposition, that's P or Q. Kanina kasi P and Q. Ang P or Q, the proposition is true when at least one of the proposition is true. True yan. Otherwise, false. Kapag isa lang sa proposition, P at saka Q ay true, true na yan. Kapag sila parehas false, false. Kanina, ulit-ulitin ko, ang P and Q, kailangan muna ang dalawang statement ay true para siya maging true. Okay? Let's have this. Let P, Q, and R propositions. Ang first proposition natin ay wala ko. Ang first proposition natin ay Barbara has a date with Ricky. Proposition Q, Jeron is sleeping. Proposition R, John Ray is eating. So express the following propositions in English or in symbol. That's P or Q. Paano ko yan siya gagawing English symbol? You can unmute yourself kasi mahaba ita-type nyo kung ita-type nyo pa yan. Who wants to try? Paano? Barbara has a date with Ricky or Jeron is sleeping. That is correct. Very good. Barbara has a date with Ricky or Jeron is sleeping. Okay. Next, let's have number 2. That's Q or the negation of R. Q or the negation of R. Okay. Para silent yung iba masyado, ilalagay yung sumasagot. You can improve that, Daniela, as either Jeron is sleeping or John Ray is not eating. But that's acceptable. Jeron is sleeping or John Ray is not eating. Okay? Let's have the next one. How can you express this one into English sentence? P or Q or R? Madali kapag disjunction, ano, kasi usually or lang talaga ang ginagamit niya. Anyone? Tawag tayo. Sino makita ko sa screen dito? Natalie? How can you express that into English sentences? Come on, guys. Nahihirapan kapag tatlo na. So, pwede mong sabihin dyan, either Barbara has a date with Ricky, or Jerome is sleeping, or John Ray is eating. So, or lang naman lahat yan. Naiintindihan po ba? Masyadong mabilis? Masyadong nakakalito? Nakakalito siya, talagang very weak yung ating grammar na foundation. Okay, walang tanong eh. Ay, sinagot ko na tuloy. Lagyan natin. So, balik rin natin, ano? So, gawin natin siyang logical symbol. Either Barbara has a date with Ricky, or Jerome is sleeping, or John Ray is... Ay, late lang yata ng type. Tama yan, Daniela. So, pag ginawa ko yan siyang symbol sa logic, P or Q, lalagyan mo siya ng parenthesis kasi ito muna yung unang tinutukoy. Either Barbara has a date with Ricky or Jerome is sleeping. Ito yung R natin. That will change ba the truth table if we are not going to put parentheses. Let's try to find out later doon sa next na slides. This one, either Barbara has a date with Ricky and Gerald is sleeping. So it's a combination of conjunction proposition kasi gumamit siya ng and at saka disjunction proposition kasi gumamit siya ng or. So either Barbara has a date with Ricky and Jerome is sleeping or Chandre is sleeping. So ito yung conjunction, ito yung disjunction. So we have now the last one, I think. How can we express this one into logical symbol? Either Barbara has a date with Ricky or Jerome is sleeping and John Ray is eating. Gumamit siya ng or and gumamit siya ng in. So mas madaling i-type yan. That's P, ang symbol niya N, Q, asa na ba? Or. Uh, wala symbol na antay ko. Okay, we have P, or diba? Ang or natin ay ito. So ito muna, either Barbara, mali ang parenthesis ko. Dapat. Ang parenthesis dapat nandito. So P, parang end yung sinimbol mo. Mali yung symbol yata na ginamit mo, Christina. Ang symbol natin ng N at saka or magkaiba ha. Ang B pala sa keyboard yun yung... No, nalito ako sa sagot mo. Yeah, that's correct. P, or, Q, and R. Okay? Now mag-truth table tayo. It's my favorite topic sa logic. Ako rin, sir, nalito. So, just to recap, when you say conjunction proposition, nagiging true yan when both the propositions P, Q, true. Kapag isa lang yung false, false yan. Sa disjunction, kung magamit ng or, isa lang dyan ang true, true lahat yan. Subukan natin ito ngayon. Use the truth table to show the logical equivalent of the statements, the negation of P and the negation of Q. Tapos, dapat pareha siya sa negation of P or Q. Dapat marunong tayo magbasa ng symbol ng logic. So, meron akong dalawang proposition, P, at saka meron akong isang proposition Q. So, ang first niyan ay true, tapos ang isa ay false. Ang second possible is true. Mali ako. Ulit tayo. Ulit. So, meron akong proposition P at saka proposition Q. So, that's true, true, false, false. So kung true ang isang first statement, so ang second statement is also true. Tapos ito ay magiging false, true, at saka false. Okay? As mentioned, there is no template sa wait lang. There's no template sa kung paano mo ngayon i-strategize yung table mo. Basta mag-arrive ka dito at saka ito. So of course, kailangan ko ng negation ng P. Kasi meron siyang negation of P and Q. So gagawa ko ng column for negation of P. So ang negation ng P, titingin ako sa column ng P. So kung true ito, so malamang false ang negation yan. Kung true ito, false ang negation yan. Kung false to, ang negation yan ay true. At kung false naman yung last statement, ang negation niya ay true. Okay? At dapat meron akong negation of Q. So titingin naman ako ngayon sa column ng Q. Kung true ito, so false to. Kung false to, so magiging true yan. This is false. This is true. Okay? Tsaka ako ngayon makukuha yung negation of P and the negation of Q. Titingin ako ngayon doon sa column ng P, negation of P at saka negation of Q. Remember, yan ay and, conjunction proposition. So the conjunction proposition, just to remind you, is true when both the proposition, yung P, negation of P, at saka ang negation of Q are true. Otherwise, false yan. So this is false. This is false. This is false. And this is true. Ito rin tinignan ko ha. Yung dalawa lang. Okay? Tapos ngayon, kukunin ko naman yung P or Q. Titingin ako sa column ng P, titingin ako sa column at the same time ng Q. That's 4. So meaning to say, at least one of the statement is true, P or Q yung true yung buong compound statement. So true, true, malamang true to. Kasi makita eh. Ito, true, false, so true pa din yan. Ito ay false, true, so true pa din kasi may isa kang true. Ito ay false, false, so false yan. Okay? Next is, we have to negate P or Q. So titingin ka na ngayon doon sa negation, doon sa P or Q. So kung true to, so malamang false yan. Kung true ito, so magiging false yan. Kung true ito, magiging false to. Kung false to, magiging true. Notice na magkapareha sila ng truth table. False, 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 true. Hence, the negation of P and the negation of Q are is logically equivalent to the negation of P or Q. Question. We will give you 1 minute to digest the table. Nakakalito. Yeah, nakakalito siya. Kasi alam mo lang, ako nga meron akong notes dati nung college ako niyan, yung P at saka, i-relate natin doon sa lesson ng union at saka intersection. Parang ganun lang siya. Yung B, yun yung union. Yung parang ganon, yun yung intersection. Di ba sa intersection ng set, balikan natin grade 7, ganun lang yung ginagamit ko dati niyan. Okay, isa pa. Parang nagtatanong, ano, isa pa. Construct the truth table. So medyo madami na. So meron tayong ilang proposition yan. Kailangan malaman natin kung ilang proposition para alam natin kung ilan yung row na gagamitin natin. Ilang proposition? Tatlo? Ano yung tatlo? Di ba dalawa lang? P and Q lang yan. Di ba dalawa lang? Tayo ba nagkakaintindihan o ako lang yung nakaintindi? Dalawa lang. P at saka Q lang. So kung dalawa lang yan, 4 lang yung ating row ngayon. Medyo mahaba to. So true, true, false, false. So ang Q natin dito ay true to, false to, true to, false to. So, unahin ko ngayon yung negation kasi kailangan meron akong negation ng Q, meron akong negation ng P. So, negation of P, so this is false, this is false, this is true, this is true. Tingnan mo lang yung column ng P. Binaliktad ko lang siya kasi negation. Okay? Kailangan ko ngayon ng negation ng Q. Sino makapagbibigay ng truth table ng negation ng Q? Anyone? You can type if you want. Masusundan naman natin yan eh. Ano yung truth table ng negation ng Q? Magtataas ng kamay. Daniela. False, 3, false, 2.
FTFT.
FTFT, that's correct.
T.
Joy Rubinasha got it correctly as well. So false, true, false, true. Ngayon, ang next kong gagawin, kukuha ako ng paloob yan ha, mula sa pinakaloob palabas ka para hindi ka malito. Yun ang technique na gawin nyo. So unahin ko to. Meron akong Q, tapos meron akong or, not P. So titingin ako sa column ng Q, tapos doon sa column ng not P. So yun. Dahil or yan, disjunction, isa lang ang true, true yan. So this is true, this is false, this is true, this is true. Nakakaano dito, pag nagkamali ka lang isa, mali na yung lahat doon sa dulo. Okay? Nag-gets ko niyan ang bakit yan ang kanyang true table, true, false, true, true. Ang next kong gagawin, ito, the Q or the negation of P, tapos in the negation of Q. Ito, nakuha na natin to kanina, di ba? Yung nasa third column. So, yung nasa fifth column, at saka yung nasa fourth column ang pagsasamahin natin. Pero yan ay naka-end. Ang end, dapat parehas na true, true yan. Can you give me the true table? Yung Q or the negation of P and the negation of Q. False, 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 true. Let's check. Q at saka false, false, very good. False, 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 true. Kasi isa lang ang false, false yan. Tapos yung buo ngayon, we have P and yung Q or the negation of P and the negation of Q. So titingnan mo lang yung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pang 6 at saka yung pang first column. Can you give me the truth table? False, 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 false. Kasi yan ay end. Check natin. False, false, false. Very good. Kapag yung last column ay nag-false lahat yan, ang tawag niyan ay contradiction. Kapag nag-true yan lahat, that's tautology. Tautology. Yung isa ay contradiction. Sa mga kukuha ng political science and law, napakalaking tulong na kahit papaano yung logic na lesson ay maging expert kayo. Okay? Lalo din yung makukuha ng criminology. Para naman hindi tayo magmukhang na basta-basta agad tayo nagko-conclude na siya ang may sala. These are basic things na pwede natin magawa. Tautology, kapag yan lahat ay true. Contradiction, kapag yan lahat ay false. Kapag halo, it's neither true, not false. Nor false pala. Okay. Now, I want you to try this one. I'll give you, oh my God, I have, ilan na lang. Ay, last na pala to. Sige. 4 minutes. The time is 8:21. Gagawa ako ng, ilan ang proposition natin dyan? Ilan?
Dalawa.
Dalawa. Sige, ako ang gagawa ng table, kayo magsusupply ha. So this is true, true, false, false. This is true, false, true, false. So unahin nyo ang negation of P. Sunod mo ay ang negation of Q. Pagkatapos the negation of P and Q. Tapos nun, um, P and negation of Q. Tapos yung last, negation of P or Q and P and negation of Q. Sige. Hilapan niyo ang table niya yan. Ang titingnan lang dyan ay yung dulo lang. So, bahala kayo kung paano mo strategize yung gitna. We'll give you 4 minutes. Go. Running out of time. Sige, let's have the negation of P. Sino makapagbigay sa akin ng negation of P? Through table niya. Wala, ito na ako. Negation of P, false, false, true, true. That's correct. False, false, true, true. Negation of Q, fourth column, false, true. That's correct, Marian. False, true, false, true. Next, the negation of P or Q. Ano ang kaniyang truth table? True, false, true, true. Ba't magkaiba ng sagot? Lizardo. Magkaiba ng sagot, tatlo. Okay. Ano kaya to? Sige, try natin. Negation of P, ito yon. Tapos Q, ito yon. Dahil yan ay or, isa lang dyan ay tama, true yan. So meron ka dyang isang true, so true yan. False parehas, so false. True parehas, so true. And then, isang true, kaya siya magiging true. So maging true, false, true, true. Okay? Let's have the fifth one, P and the negation of Q. Ano ang kanyang truth table? P and negation of Q. TPFT. Ang P natin ay ito, tapos ang negation of Q ay ito. Dahil end yan, isa lang dyan ay false, false yan. Kailangan maging true yan parehas. So it's false, true. Wala pa rin ito ba tama? Meron isa, si Joy. It's false, true, false, false. Tingnan natin. True at saka false, so malamang false yan. Dapat kasi dalawa parehas true. True at saka true, true yan. False at saka false, false. False at saka true, false siya. Okay? The last one. Anong sagot? Negation of P or Q and P and the negation of Q. Very good. It's false. It's an example of contradiction. Okay? Forgive me kung marami tayong assignment. Kasi next Monday will be my last day to you. Mag-file ako ng leave para doon sa papalit sa akin. Hindi siya masyadong mahirapan. Babalik kayo sa business math. So we have activity 3A. You have to construct the table of each of the given compound statement. And then this one, medyo mahaba siya. Kailangan ipakita na logically equivalent siya. Number 6 na urong ha. Ito yung 6. At saka yung number 3B, you have to express in English sentence. Okay, wait a minute. Questions so far?
Sir, ba't ka mag-leave?
Alin? Pag ma-maternity leave